He was the most feared man in Los Angeles, a shadow emperor whose tattooed hands could end careers with a single phone call. But the one person Andrew Lee couldn't reach was his own son. For 7 years, the boy hadn't spoken, hadn't responded, and hadn't shown any sign of the warrior blood that ran through the Lee family line, or so Andrew believed. The best specialists in Seoul had called the boy hopeless. But then came a Thursday afternoon at an elite prep school and a humble janitor named Gracie. Risking her job and possibly her life for interrupting the dragon, she didn't bring him paperwork. She pulled a strange silver object from her cleaning cart. What happened next didn't just silence the hallway. It brought the Korean crime lord to his knees and changed the underworld forever. The fluorescent lights hummed against the polished linoleum floors of Westwood Preparatory Academy, casting everything in harsh, institutional white. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant, expensive leather backpacks, and tension. Gracie Howarth adjusted her blue janitor's cap, her hands trembling slightly as she wrung out a mop into the orange bucket beside her. She'd been working at Westwood for only 6 weeks, just long enough to know that when Principal Martin started fidgeting with his tie and the front desk receptionist suddenly found urgent paperwork to organize, trouble was walking through those glass doors. "Gracie," Mrs. Chen, the head custodian, hissed, gripping her shoulder a little too tightly near the maintenance closet. "Third floor pickup zone. You're covering it this afternoon." Gracie's stomach dropped. The third floor pickup zone wasn't just a hallway. It was a minefield. It was where the wealthiest, most powerful parents collected their children, celebrities, tech moguls, and men whose names appeared in hushed whispers rather than newspapers. "I thought Miguel was assigned to third floor," Gracie whispered, glancing at the senior janitor who was currently reorganizing cleaning supplies in the basement, suddenly fascinated with inventory. "Miguel called in sick," Mrs. Chen said, wiping her palms on her uniform. "You're the only one left. Just empty the trash bins, keep your head down, and for the love of God, do not make eye contact with Mr. Lee. And the boy," she paused, her voice dropping even lower, "just stay away from the boy." Gracie frowned. "The boy?" "His son, William. He brings him sometimes. The kid is different. Just don't get involved." Before Gracie could ask what different meant, the glass entrance doors at the front of the school swung open with a pneumatic hiss. The ambient chatter of parents and children, usually a steady hum of pleasantries and scheduling talk, was severed instantly. It was as if someone had sucked the oxygen out of the building. Andrew Lee walked in. He was taller than he appeared in the occasional paparazzi photos that surfaced online, wearing a tailored black suit that probably cost more than Gracie's entire year of wages. His face was all sharp angles and controlled intensity, his eyes dark and scanning the hallway for threats, even in a children's school. The dragon tattoo that crawled up his neck from beneath his collar was impossible to miss, its scales rendered in intricate detail that spoke of old-world Yakuza tradition. His hands, decorated with ink that disappeared beneath his cuffs, rested casually at his sides, but there was nothing casual about the way he moved. Every step was calculated, deliberate, dangerous. Flanking him were 2 men in dark suits whose bulk strained against their tailored jackets, but Gracie's eyes were drawn to the small figure trailing several steps behind Andrew's purposeful stride. It was a boy, no older than 7 or 8. He wore a miniature version of a prep school uniform, white collared shirt, blue sweater vest, pressed navy slacks, but it all looked slightly wrong on him, as if he couldn't quite coordinate his movements with his clothing. His jet black hair was combed neatly to the side, and his eyes, dark and incredibly expressive, darted around the hallway frantically. He wasn't walking with the confident stride of a crime prince. He was hesitating, his small hands clamped tightly over his ears, as if the silence of the hallway was actually a deafening roar. Andrew reached the designated pickup area and stopped, not bothering to acknowledge the other parents who had quickly gathered their children and moved to the opposite side of the corridor. The bodyguards took positions flanking the stairwell and elevator. William stood frozen several feet away, his attention locked on the overhead lights that flickered intermittently, mesmerized by the pattern. "William," Andrew said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the lockers seem to rattle. The boy didn't move. He was staring at the ceiling, his head tilted at an odd angle, completely absorbed. "William Lee," Andrew said again, sharper this time. He snapped his fingers directly in front of his son's face. The boy flinched, startled by the sudden movement in his peripheral vision, and took a stumbling step forward, his eyes never leaving the ceiling. Gracie, halfway down the hall with her mop and bucket, stopped. She knew that look. She knew that behavior. This wasn't defiance. This wasn't rudeness. This was a child drowning in sensory input he couldn't process. As if on cue, a group of middle schoolers burst through the stairwell door, laughing and shouting, their sneakers squeaking against the linoleum as they raced toward the exit. The sudden chaos, the vibrations through the floor, the unpredictable movement, the visual assault of bodies rushing past was too much. William's hands clamped tighter over his ears. His breathing became rapid, shallow, and then, without warning, he opened his mouth and let out a sound that made everyone in the hallway freeze. It was a high-pitched, guttural cry, unregulated, raw, and desperate, the sound of a child who couldn't hear his own voice and didn't know how to control its volume. It was a sound of pure, overwhelming distress. Andrew's face flushed, not with concern, with rage, and with shame. Parents stared. Teachers peered out from classrooms. Principal Martin appeared from his office, looking pale and uncertain. "William, enough," Andrew said through clenched teeth, his accent barely perceptible but present. He reached down and grabbed his son's arm, not violently but firmly. "You are a Lee. Act like it." But William didn't stop. He couldn't stop. His entire body was rigid, locked in panic, tears beginning to stream down his flushed cheeks. Gracie watched from 15 feet away, her hands still gripping the mop handle. Every instinct she'd buried for 3 years suddenly screamed at her. Every lecture she'd ever attended about sensory processing disorder, every technique she'd learned for calming overstimulated children, every reason she'd become an audiologist in the first place, it all came flooding back. She saw what no one else could see. This boy wasn't broken. He wasn't defective. He was begging for someone to understand. And in that moment, Gracie Howarth made a decision that would change 3 lives forever. She dropped the mop, she stepped away from her bucket, and she walked directly towards the most dangerous man in Los Angeles. Welcome to Mob Hearts, and I'm so glad you're here. Before we dive into this incredible story, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications because what happens next is absolutely shocking. This story has twists you won't see coming. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. Now, let's get into it. The black Mercedes pulled into Westwood Preparatory's circular drive at exactly 3:15 p.m. its tinted windows reflecting the manicured hedges and Spanish tile architecture. Parents who had been chatting casually near their own luxury vehicles suddenly found urgent reasons to check their phones, gather their children, and create distance. Everyone knew that car. Everyone knew who was inside. Andrew Lee emerged from the back seat with the fluid grace of a predator. His suit was impeccable, midnight black with subtle pinstripes, tailored to accommodate the powerful build beneath. But no amount of expensive fabric could hide what he was. The dragon tattoo coiled up his neck, its head disappearing beneath his jawline, rendered in traditional Korean style, with scales so detailed they seemed to move in the afternoon light. His hands, visible as he adjusted his cuffs, bore more ink, symbols and characters that spoke of loyalty, blood, and a world most of these parents pretended didn't exist. His knuckles were scarred, the kind of damage that came from breaking bone against bone. His eyes swept the pickup zone with cold calculation, assessing threats even here among the privileged children of Los Angeles. William stood near the lockers, separate from the cluster of students waiting for their parents. While other children chattered and compared notes about homework, he remained motionless, his gaze locked on the fluorescent lights overhead. One of the tubes flickered erratically, and William's head tilted with each pulse, mesmerized by the pattern only he seemed to notice. Andrew's jaw tightened as he approached. "William, we're leaving." The boy didn't respond, didn't turn. His focus remained absolute. Then chaos erupted. A stampede of middle schoolers burst through the stairwell, their Friday afternoon energy explosive and uncontained. They thundered past, backpacks bouncing, sneakers squealing against polished floors, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of weekend plans and inside jokes. For William, it was an assault. The vibrations traveled through the floor into his feet. The unpredictable movements invaded his peripheral vision. The flickering light, the rushing bodies, the trembling lockers, it all collided at once. His hands flew to his ears. His breathing became rapid, desperate. He began to rock, a rhythmic, self-soothing motion that his body performed automatically. And then he screamed. Not a word, not a phrase, but a guttural, high-pitched wail that echoed through the corridor. The sound of a deaf child who couldn't regulate his own volume, who couldn't hear the social cues telling him this wasn't acceptable. Conversations died. Parents turned to stare, their expressions ranging from pity to disgust to uncomfortable curiosity. Preachers emerged from doorways, uncertain whether to intervene. Principal Martin materialized beside Andrew, his tie slightly askew, his voice carefully modulated. "Mr. Lee, I know we've discussed this before, but perhaps William would benefit from our special needs program. We have excellent resources, trained specialists who could—" "No." Andrew's voice was steel wrapped in silk, his accent barely perceptible but present in the hard consonants. His eyes never left his son. "My son is a Lee. He will not be segregated and treated like he's defective." William's distress escalated. In his rocking, his elbow caught the edge of a trash can. The metal container tipped, crashed to the floor with a reverberating clang that made the boy's scream intensify. His whole body convulsed at the sensation. Andrew moved forward, his patience fracturing. He grabbed William's arm, not cruelly, but with the firm grip of a man who expected immediate compliance. "Enough. Stop this. You embarrass your family." But William couldn't stop. His eyes were wild, unfocused, his small chest heaving with panic. From the periphery, still holding her mop, Gracie Howarth watched, and she understood what no one else could see. This child wasn't misbehaving. He was drowning, and his father was holding him underwater.
"Excuse me, Mr. Lee." The voice came from behind him, quiet but clear. Andrew turned, and for a brief moment, every person in that hallway held their breath. Gracie stood 5 feet away, still in her faded blue janitor's uniform, her cap slightly askew, her hands no longer gripping the mop. She looked small, unremarkable, the kind of person who cleaned up after others and disappeared into the background. But her eyes held something Andrew recognized, not fear, but determination. "Who are you?" His voice was soft, which made it more dangerous, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. "I'm the janitor," Gracie said, her voice steadier than her hands, "and I think I can help." One of the bodyguards moved forward, his hand already reaching inside his jacket. Andrew raised his hand, a single economical gesture, and the man froze mid-step. Andrew studied her, his dark eyes narrowing with a mixture of curiosity and warning. "Help." Gracie didn't wait for permission. She walked forward, moving slowly, deliberately, until she was 3 feet from William. The boy was still crying, still rocking, his hands pressed so tightly against his ears that his knuckles had gone white. She knelt down, bringing herself to his eye level. She didn't reach for him, didn't try to force contact. She simply waited, letting him register her presence in his peripheral vision. Then she reached into the pocket of her cleaning cart and pulled out a small silver object. It looked like a 2-pronged fork made of surgical steel, about 6 inches long, with a weighted base. Andrew's brow furrowed. What is that supposed to do? Gracie looked up at him, her brown eyes serious. "Sometimes the world is too loud, Mr. Lee. We need to give him one clear note." She struck the tuning fork hard against the heel of her boot. The metal prongs blurred instantly, vibrating so fast they became a silver shimmer in the fluorescent light. A pure, singular frequency hummed through the air, though William couldn't hear it. Slowly, gently, Gracie brought the base of the vibrating fork toward William's collarbone. She didn't force it. She let him see it coming, let him process. The moment the metal touched his skin, everything changed. William gasped. His eyes went wide, not with fear, but with wonder. The crying stopped instantly, as if someone had flipped a switch. The strong, pure vibration traveled through his bones, bypassing his damaged ears entirely and resonating directly into his inner ear. For a boy who lived in a world of muffled, chaotic sensation, this was clarity, a single, beautiful note he could feel. Gracie struck the fork again, this time placing it against William's elbow. His small face transformed. The terror melted away, replaced by fascination, by something that looked almost like joy. He reached out with trembling fingers and touched the vibrating fork. The sensation traveled through his fingertips, up his arm, into his chest. And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, William laughed. It was a rusty sound, unused and awkward, the laugh of a child who rarely had reason to make it, but it was real. The hallway went completely silent. Parents stared, teachers stood frozen in doorways. Even the bodyguards looked uncertain, as if witnessing something that didn't fit their understanding of the world. William looked up at Gracie's face. Then, slowly, clumsily, he lifted his hand and touched his chin before extending it toward her, a gesture he'd seen other children make but never understood until now. "Thank you." Gracie's eyes filled with tears. She returned the gesture, touching her own chin and moving her hand toward him. "You're welcome." Andrew stared at his son, at the awareness in his eyes, at the intelligence that had been locked away behind a wall of sensory chaos for 7 years. He looked like a man watching a miracle he didn't believe in. Gracie stood slowly, meeting Andrew's gaze directly for the first time. "He's not broken, Mr. Lee. He's just speaking a language nobody's been listening to." "Who are you, really?" The black Mercedes was parked outside Gracie's apartment building when she arrived home that evening, idling at the curb like a patient predator. She lived in a modest walk-up in Koreatown, the kind of place where the paint peeled in strips and the stairs creaked under your weight. It wasn't much, but it was hers, or at least it had been. She was still fumbling with her keys when she heard footsteps behind her on the third-floor landing. Heavy, deliberate. She turned, and Andrew Lee stood there, somehow looking even more imposing in the narrow hallway than he had at the school. "Dr. Gracie Howarth," he said, his voice calm and factual. "Licensed audiologist, Johns Hopkins, graduated top of your class. Lost your license 3 years ago after a 6-year-old patient died during a cochlear implant surgery you advocated for against the recommendations of senior physicians. Been working as a janitor ever since." Gracie's blood turned to ice. "How did you—" "I know everything about people who touch my son." He moved past her, not waiting for an invitation, and pushed open her unlocked door. "You should lock this, by the way. This neighborhood isn't safe." She followed him inside, her heart hammering. He surveyed her apartment with the same calculating gaze he'd used at the school. The second-hand furniture, the stack of medical textbooks she couldn't bring herself to throw away, the tuning fork sitting on her kitchen counter next to a half-empty coffee mug. Andrew picked up the fork, turning it over in his tattooed hands. "You carry this because you're running from who you used to be. That ends tonight." "Mr. Lee, I don't know what you think—" "I'm offering you a position," he interrupted, setting the fork down with a soft clink. "You'll live at my compound in Malibu. You'll work exclusively with William. $15,000 a month. All your debts cleared, student loans, credit cards, that medical malpractice settlement you're still paying off. Clean slate." Gracie's mouth went dry. "I'm not qualified anymore. I lost my license. I can't—" "I don't care about licenses," Andrew said, turning to face her fully. His eyes were dark, unreadable, but there was something beneath the coldness, something desperate.
I care about results. You made my son laugh today. In 7 years, the best specialists in Seoul, Zurich, Boston, none of them accomplished what you did in 3 minutes with a $10 piece of metal. And if I refuse? Andrew's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Your landlord received an offer this afternoon to purchase this building. The new owner plans to triple the rent. Your car has 3 outstanding parking citations that will result in a boot by Monday morning. Your student loan servicer is about to transfer your account to collections. He reached into his jacket and produced a black business card with gold Korean characters embossed on it. Or you can get in the car waiting downstairs. Gracie stared at the card, her hands trembling. This isn't a choice. No, it's not. The reality crashed over her like cold water. This wasn't a job interview. This wasn't negotiation. She wasn't being hired. She was being acquired. The same way he probably acquired property, businesses, loyalty. The same way powerful men had always taken what they wanted. She looked around her small apartment, at the life she'd built from the wreckage of her old one, and realized it had never really been hers at all. How long do I have to pack? 10 minutes. Gracie moved to her closet with shaking hands, pulling down a duffel bag she'd bought at a thrift store. As she threw clothes inside, not trying to think about what she was agreeing to, Andrew remained by the door, silent and immovable. When she emerged with her bag, he was holding the tuning fork. My son's name is William. He's 7 years old, and he's the only thing in this world I can't control. He paused, and for just a moment, the mask slipped. Beneath the dragon tattoo and the cold eyes, she saw a father who was terrified. Fix that. The Malibu compound wasn't a home. It was a fortress disguised as architectural triumph. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Pacific, where waves crashed against private beach far below. The structure was all clean lines and brutal concrete, softened only by the warm glow of recessed lighting. Security cameras swiveled at every corner. Men in dark suits patrolled the perimeter with the disciplined rhythm of soldiers. This wasn't a place where children played. It was a place where empires were controlled. Gracie found William in what the staff called the playroom, though the term felt obscene. The space was enormous, easily 1,000 square feet, filled with toys that still had their tags attached. A custom-built train set circled the room on elevated tracks, untouched. A robotic dog sat in the corner, its battery long dead. Educational tablets lined one shelf, their screens dark. William sat in the center of the floor, cross-legged, repeatedly opening and closing his hands. He was feeling the air resistance, the subtle pressure against his palms, the only tactile feedback available in this sterile paradise. Gracie quietly removed her shoes. She wanted to feel what he felt, the vibrations through the polished concrete floor. She began walking toward him, stepping heavily. Thump, thump, thump. William's head turned, his eyes widened with recognition. The tuning fork lady. She knelt down several feet away, giving him space. From her bag, she pulled out a simple balloon, red, uninflated, purchased from a convenience store on the drive up. She blew it up slowly, tied it off, and then retrieved her phone. She scrolled to a K-pop playlist, turned the volume to maximum, and pressed the phone against the taut rubber surface. The bass was heavy, rhythmic, primal. She held the balloon out to William. He approached cautiously, his dark eyes fixed on the trembling surface. When his fingertips made contact, his entire face transformed. The vibrations were concentrated, amplified, pure. Every beat, every bass line traveled through the rubber directly into his hands. It was better than the floor, better than anything he'd felt before. William's face broke into a smile, genuine, unguarded. He pulled the balloon to his chest, hugging it tight, and began swaying to the rhythm only he could feel. I bought him a custom sound system that cost $50,000. Gracie jumped. Andrew stood in the doorway, his jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled to reveal more ink, dragons and tigers coiling up his forearms. You make him happy with a balloon from a dollar store. She stood slowly. He doesn't need expensive equipment, Mr. Lee. He needs physics, vibration, touch. Andrew stared at his son, really looked at him for a long moment. Then, to Gracie's shock, he walked into the room and sat down on the floor. The sight was jarring. A tattooed Mafia boss in expensive socks, cross-legged on a playroom rug, looking lost. "Show me," he said quietly. Gracie handed him the balloon. "Hold it, both of you. Feel the same thing together." Andrew extended the balloon toward William. The boy looked at his father, uncertain, then reached out. They held it together, the phone pressed between the rubber, the base pulsing through both their hands. For the first time in 7 years, father and son shared a moment of pure connection. William's free hand reached out tentatively and touched Andrew's forearm. His small fingers traced the raised lines of the dragon tattoo, fascinated by the textured ink against skin. Andrew froze. His eyes glistened, his jaw working as if he were trying to swallow something sharp. "He's never," he cracked, "he's never initiated contact like this." Gracie felt tears prick her own eyes. "When he feels safe, he explores. You've been trying to force him to hear you, Mr. Lee. He's been waiting for you to touch him." The moment shattered like glass. "Boss," Marcus Chen appeared in the doorway, his face grim, phone in hand. "We have a situation at the port. The Triad intercepted the shipment." Andrew's expression changed instantly. The vulnerable father vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal. He stood in one fluid motion, his hand already reaching for the phone Marcus offered. "Stay here," he commanded Gracie, his voice returning to steel. "Do not leave this room. Do not open the door for anyone but me." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in the fortress with a child who had just learned what safety felt like.
At 2 in the morning, the compound was a study in contrasts. Silent, but never sleeping. Dark, but never unwatched. Gracie sat in the library, a leather-bound book open on her lap that she hadn't read a single page of. The floor-to-ceiling windows reflected her pale face back at her, a ghost haunting someone else's fortress. Then she heard it, the service entrance grinding open, a heavy thud like a body hitting marble. Men's voices, urgent and low. Gracie dropped the book and ran. Andrew was in the foyer, leaning heavily against one of his bodyguards, his face gray beneath his tan. His white shirt, pristine when he'd left, was no longer white. The entire left side was soaked through with crimson, the fabric clinging to his torso like a second skin. His breathing came in shallow, controlled gasps. "You need a hospital," Gracie said, rushing forward. "No hospitals." Andrew's voice was strained but firm. "Too many questions. Police are already swarming the docks." "You're bleeding out." "Kitchen," he growled. "Better lighting." Between Gracie and the bodyguard, they half-carried Andrew to the industrial kitchen. Under the harsh LED lights, the damage was worse than she'd thought. Gracie grabbed scissors from a drawer and cut away the ruined shirt. A billet had grazed his ribs, painful but superficial. The shoulder wound was deeper, a through and through that had torn muscle but missed the bone. "You have field medic training from my residency," Gracie said, her voice steadier than her hands. "I can do this." She scrubbed her hands raw, then retrieved the tactical medical kit one of the guards produced. For the next 30 minutes, the only sounds were the storm outside and the snip of surgical scissors. Andrew didn't flinch as she irrigated the wounds, didn't make a sound as she threaded the needle. He just watched her with dark, intense eyes. "You have steady hands for someone so afraid." "I'm not afraid of blood. I'm afraid of failing." "Is that why you quit the patient who died?" Her hands paused, the needle hovering mid-stitch. "She was 6 years old. Cochlear implant surgery. I pushed for it when 3 other doctors said it was too risky. I thought I knew better." She resumed stitching, her jaw tight. "She died on the table. Hemorrhage. I couldn't stop it. And now you hide with mops and buckets. I don't trust my judgment anymore." Andrew's left hand, the uninjured side, shot out and caught her wrist. His grip was weak but insistent. "You trusted it today with my son, and you were right." The air between them shifted, becoming charged with something dangerous and electric. The smell of antiseptic faded, replaced by the masculine scent of his skin, the copper tang of blood, the proximity of violence and vulnerability combined.
Andrew pulled her slightly closer, his voice dropping. "The triad. They're not just stealing cargo. They're trying to prove I'm weak. They say a man who can't control his own son can't control the streets." "William doesn't make you weak," Gracie said fiercely. "In my world, everything is either a weapon or a target." His eyes held hers, raw and honest in a way she suspected was rare for him. "They'll come for him. You understand? If I fall, they'll come for him. Then we make him strong, not by changing who he is, but by showing them what he can do." Andrew's gaze dropped to her lips. The distance between them collapsed to inches. His hand moved from his wrist to the small of her back, pulling her closer still. "Boss." They jerked apart. Marcus Chen stood in the doorway, phone in hand, his expression unreadable, cold, calculating, something in his eyes that Gracie couldn't quite name but instinctively distrusted. Andrew's mask snapped back into place, though his breathing was still uneven. "What?" "We found the leak," Marcus said flat. "It's coming from inside. Someone in the house is feeding them information." Andrew's face went hard as stone. He looked at the ceiling, towards where William slept, and Gracie saw true fear cross his features. The enemy wasn't just at the gates. The enemy was already inside.
3 weeks passed in a blur of progress that felt almost miraculous. Security at the compound tripled, every staff member re-vetted, every delivery inspected, cameras installed in places Gracie hadn't known existed. The fortress became tighter, more suffocating, but also strangely safer. In the playroom, William worked with William for hours each day, teaching him a modified version of American Sign Language. But she didn't start with visual signs. She started with touch. She would form a sign, then guide William's hands over hers so he could feel the shape, the movement, the intention. Only then would she show him the gesture in a mirror. Father, home, happy, protect, strong, more, please, love. Within 3 weeks, William had a vocabulary of over 60 signs. His dark eyes, once glazed with isolation, now burned with intelligence and hunger for more. He practiced constantly, signing to himself, to his toys, to the windows overlooking the ocean. Andrew watched from the doorway most afternoons, still in his suit from whatever business had occupied his morning. He looked like an outsider observing a secret society of two, unable to find the password for entry. "He's asking for you," Gracie said one afternoon, not turning around. She'd learned to sense Andrew's presence, the way the air grew heavier, more charged. "He keeps signing Dragon Man." Andrew stepped into the room. "Dragon Man?" "He doesn't know the sign for father yet, but he sees your tattoos." William spotted his father and his face lit up. He ran across the room with an eagerness Andrew had never seen before, not stumbling or hesitant but purposeful. He grabbed Andrew's hand and placed it firmly against his own small throat. Then he made a sound, a low, sustained hum. Andrew's breath caught. Beneath his palm, he could feel the vibration of his son's vocal cords, the physical proof that William had a voice, even if he couldn't hear it himself. "I can feel his voice," Andrew whispered, his eyes glistening. William pulled Andrew's hand away and signed, touching his thumb to his forehead in the gesture Gracie had taught him, "Father." Then he signed strong, making fists and flexing his arms. Then, with reverent curiosity, he touched the dragon tattoo on Andrew's forearm, tracing its scales. "Teach me," Andrew said to Gracie, his voice rough. "Teach me his language." For the next hour, the three of them sat on the floor while Gracie taught Andrew the basic signs: father, son, home, love, protect. Andrew's large, scarred hands, built for violence, learned to form gentle shapes in the air. William watched his father with complete attention, correcting his hand position, laughing when Andrew signed strong but accidentally signed silly instead. It was the first real conversation they'd ever had. "I secured the Getty Center for this Sunday," Andrew said later, as William played with a vibrating toy nearby. "Private access, full closure. He deserves to see beauty, not just these walls." "Is it safe?" Gracie asked,
though she already knew the futility of the question. "I have Marcus coordinating security. 20 men positioned throughout the museum and grounds. It'll be safer than this compound." Gracie nodded, but something nagged at her. She'd noticed Marcus watching their sessions from the hallway sometimes, his expression unreadable. Earlier that week, when William had successfully signed a complex sentence, she'd caught Marcus's face in the reflection of the window. It wasn't pride she'd seen there. It was resentment. Cold, calculating resentment.
The Getty Center perched on its hilltop like a temple to human achievement, all travertine stone and geometric gardens, Richard Mayer's architectural masterpiece gleaming white against the California sky. Below, Los Angeles sprawled in a hazy patchwork of freeways and palm trees. Above, the sky was painfully blue. The museum had been emptied. No tourists, no staff, just Andrew's security team positioned at strategic points throughout the galleries and gardens. 20 men, Marcus had assured them, invisible but present. William was in paradise. For a deaf child, visual beauty became everything, and the Getty offered endless stimulation. He moved from sculpture to sculpture, touching the cool bronze with permission, fascinated by how afternoon light fractured through the skylights and painted shadows across white walls. His hands traced the grain of marble, the smooth curve of glass installations. Andrew and Gracie followed several paces behind, their hands swinging close but never quite touching. The tension between them had been building for weeks, professional boundaries blurring into something neither had named. "You've changed everything," Andrew said quietly, watching his son examine a Monet with intense concentration. "You gave him the world back. You gave me my son." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Gracie's ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek, rough and warm. Ahead, William had wandered into the modern art gallery. A massive reflective installation dominated the space, polished steel panels arranged at angles, creating infinite reflections, a maze of light and distortion. William stood transfixed, staring at his own reflection multiplied across the mirrored surfaces. Then his expression changed. The wonder drained away, replaced with confusion. He pressed his face closer to one panel, his breath fogging the polished steel. In the reflection of the sculpture garden visible through the window behind him, in the brushed metal surface of a distant statue, there was a tiny red dot, moving, searching. William had seen laser pointers before. Teachers used them, other kids had them as toys, but this felt wrong. The movement was too deliberate, too focused. His arms started waving frantically. He signed "bad" with sharp, urgent movements, then pointed at the glass. Gracie followed his finger. Her eyes traced the reflection, saw what he saw, the unmistakable glint of a sniper scope on a distant roofline, the red targeting laser dancing across surfaces. "Andrew, get down!" She didn't think. Her body moved on pure instinct, launching herself at William, tackling him to the marble floor and covering his small body with her own. Crack! The sound of the high-powered rifle shot was deafening in the enclosed space. The massive glass panel where Andrew's head had been exploded into 1,000 glittering fragments, raining down like deadly snow. Andrew's weapon was already in his hand, years of survival instinct overriding shock. He dropped into a combat stance, scanning for the shooter. "Sniper!" one of the security team screamed into his radio. More shots. Crack, crack. Bullets tearing through priceless art, splintering sculptures, punching holes in the pristine white walls. Security returned fire. The museum transformed into a war zone. William, beneath Gracie, couldn't hear the chaos, but could feel the vibrations of gunfire through the floor, feel Gracie's racing heartbeat against his back. "It's Marcus!" Andrew shouted, his voice cold with recognition and betrayal. He coordinated this. He knew exactly where we'd be. As if summoned, Marcus Chen emerged from a side gallery, no longer pretending. He held a rifle with professional ease, his face devoid of emotion. Cold, calculating, resolved. "You're making us weak, Andrew. A deaf boss? The other families are laughing at us. I'm saving what we built." "By killing my son?" Andrew's gun remained trained on his former lieutenant.
by giving you a reason to be ruthless again. Without him, you're the dragon of Los Angeles again, not a father playing house with a janitor and a broken kid."
They were trapped behind a marble sculpture pedestal. Gracie, William, and 3,000 years of Greek artistry, the only things between them and Marcus's rifle. Andrew stood 10 feet away, his pistol trained on the man who had been his right hand for a decade. "Look at yourself," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the ruined gallery. Broken glass crunched under his boots as he repositioned. "You're playing house with a janitor and a broken kid. This isn't who we are." "You're right," Andrew said, his voice eerily calm. "This isn't who we were. It's who we're becoming. The Triad will tear us apart the moment they sense weakness. Let them try." Andrew's eyes never left Marcus, but his words carried a certainty that hadn't been there before. "William saw your sniper before I did. His eyes are sharper than any of ours. You call that weakness?" Marcus laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off travertine walls. "You've gone soft, sentimental, the dragon of Los Angeles, reduced to learning hand signals and playing with balloons?" "No," Andrew said quietly. "I've gone smart. Drop the weapon, Marcus. Get out of my sight. Disappear, because if I see you again—" Marcus raised the rifle, his finger moving to the trigger. "You won't get the chance." William bolted from behind cover. "William, no!" Gracie's scream was raw with terror. But the boy wasn't running away. He was running toward the sculpture garden exit, his small body moving with purpose. His bare feet, he'd kicked off his shoes to feel the museum floor better, pressed against the polished marble. He'd felt something through the stone, vibrations, footsteps, multiple sets, moving into position. William spun, pointing frantically toward the western entrance, signing bad, signing danger with movements so sharp they cut the air. Andrew understood instantly. He pivoted, his weapon tracking toward where William pointed. Two more of Marcus's men emerged from the western gallery, rifles raised. Andrew fired twice. Both men dropped. In that split second of diverted attention, Marcus tried to adjust his aim back to Andrew, but Andrew was already moving. His third shot was perfect, center mass, the kind of shot that came from years of training and survival instinct refined to lethal precision. Marcus stumbled backward. The rifle clattered from his hands, sliding across marble slick with glass and blood. He fell, his expression frozen somewhere between shock and bitter understanding. Andrew didn't look at the body. He ran to William, dropping to his knees and pulling his son against his chest. His hands were shaking. The dragon of Los Angeles, whose hands never shook, was trembling as he held his child. "How did you know? How did you know they were coming?" William pulled back and pointed to the floor. Then he stomped his foot hard against the marble, then pointed to his feet. The message was clear, even without signs. "He heard them," Gracie said, crawling out from cover, her voice filled with wonder and horror. "He heard them coming, through his feet, through the vibrations in the floor. He heard them coming." Andrew looked at his son, this child he'd thought was broken, defective, a liability. This child who had just saved his life by perceiving what 20 armed men had missed. "You saved me," Andrew said, his voice cracking. Gracie moved to them, and Andrew reached out with one arm, pulling her into the embrace. The three of them knelt there on the floor of the ruined gallery, surrounded by shattered glass and Renaissance art, holding each other while sirens wailed in the distance. "You both saved me," Andrew whispered into Gracie's hair, "from myself." 3 months later, the Wiltern Theater in downtown Los Angeles blazed with light. The Art Deco masterpiece had been built in 1931, its interior a symphony of turquoise and gold geometric patterns. Tonight, it hosted a different kind of symphony, the gathering of the 5 Korean syndicates, the most powerful crime families on the West Coast. The rumors had been circulating for weeks. Andrew Lee was distracted, weakened. His obsession with his defective son had made him vulnerable. Marcus Chen's failed coup had exposed fractures. The Chinese Triad representatives sat in the front rows, their presence a silent threat, waiting to see if the Lee Empire would crumble from within.
The stage had been prepared with precision. Traditional Korean drums, janggu and buk were arranged in a semicircle. But there were also modern elements, powerful subwoofers built into the stage floor, speakers calibrated to create vibrations that could be felt rather than merely heard. Andrew took the podium, dressed in a charcoal suit, his dragon tattoo visible at his collar. The theater fell silent. "Many of you have questioned my judgment," he began, his voice carrying through the space. "You've questioned whether my son makes me weak, whether a death heir can carry the Lee legacy." He paused, his dark eyes sweeping the audience. Tonight, he will answer those questions himself. The side curtain parted. William entered, now 8 years old, wearing a traditional white dobok, the taekwondo uniform crisp and formal. His black belt was tied perfectly around his waist. The audience murmured. What was this? A demonstration? A spectacle? William walked to center stage, barefoot, and stood on a specially designed floor that amplified vibrations. He closed his eyes, his small chest rising and falling with controlled breathing. The drummers began, deep resonant beats that traveled through the stage, up through William's feet into his bones. He could feel the rhythm in ways the audience couldn't comprehend. Each strike a physical sensation, each pattern a language written in vibration. William moved. But this wasn't traditional taekwondo. This was something new. Each strike, each kick, each turn was perfectly synchronized with the drum beats he felt through the floor. When the bass frequencies from the subwoofers kicked in, his movements became more fluid, adding an almost ballet-like grace to the martial precision. The performance was breathtaking. Power and poetry merged. He wasn't compensating for his deafness, he was using it, perceiving the rhythm in ways hearing people never could. His timing was impossibly perfect because he wasn't distracted by ambient sound, by crowd noise, by anything except the pure tactile frequency traveling through his body. For the finale, attendants brought out a series of wooden boards, but these weren't ordinary boards. They were calibrated to specific resonant frequencies. William placed his hand on each one, feeling its unique vibration. Then, with surgical precision, he struck them at the exact moment and angle that matched their natural frequency. Each board shattered perfectly, flawless execution. The Wiltern Theater erupted. Hardened criminals who had ordered deaths without flinching rose to their feet, applauding. The Chinese triad representatives looked shaken. This wasn't weakness, this was innovation, evolution. Andrew returned to the stage, placing his hand on William's shoulder. The Lee family does not follow tradition blindly. We evolve, we adapt. His voice carried absolute authority. My son doesn't hear your judgment, he feels your respect. And from this moment forward, anyone who questions his worth questions me. From the wings, Gracie watched, tears streaming down her face. She wore a simple black dress, no longer a janitor, but not quite fitting any traditional role either. William spotted her. His face lit up. He ran to the wings and signed family with emphatic joy, then grabbed her hand and pulled her on stage. The audience watched in stunned silence as Andrew crossed to them. He took Gracie's hand publicly, intertwining his tattooed fingers with hers, claiming her before the entire underworld as something more than an employee, more than a therapist. Family. We make our own way, Andrew declared, his arm around Gracie, his other hand on William's shoulder. The audience bowed, first to Andrew, as tradition demanded. Then, in an unprecedented gesture, they bowed to William. The broken hero had become the unbreakable legacy.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button one last time. Let's get this video to 20,000 views. We can do it together. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I have more stories coming that are just as powerful, just as emotional, and just as unforgettable. Comment below what your favorite moment was from this entire story. Was it when Gracie pulled out the tuning fork? When William saved his father at the Getty Center? Or that final performance at the Wiltern Theater? I want to know. I'll see you in the next story. Take care, and remember, sometimes the people we think are broken are just speaking a language we haven't learned yet. Bye.